All right, welcome back to Mommas Who Lead, the podcast for the mom who knows she was built for more and is brave enough to go and get it. I'm your host, Laura Caroffino, and today I am so excited. My guest today is someone who, the moment I actually learned her story, I knew I had to get her on the show. She is a best-selling author, trauma-informed occupational therapist, a TEDx speaker, and the founder of Soul Story Collective. She's a wife of 27 years, a mom, and she is a living, breathing example of what leading yourself through fire actually looks like. So, welcome, Christina.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and for our new friendship.
I know. If you guys, when you guys are listening, we actually connected through a mutual friend, and I just love that. That's what's so fantastic about networking and podcasting. You get to know and meet all of these incredible people like Christina. So, I would love to start at the beginning because I think so often we see someone standing in like their power and we forget what it took to really get there. People, see our highlight reels and think, "Oh, this success is all instantaneously, happened overnight," which we all know that's not true, right? So take me back. What life experience shaped the leader that you are today?
So, not to take you all the way back to the womb, but a lot of this started from childhood. I had verbally abusive dad. And so I was that kid who grew up thinking that she didn't have a voice, that I couldn't have an opinion, that, I spent a lot of time sort of hiding in my room and reading books. I think that's why I'm so into books now, because that was truly an escape for me as a kid. I would sort of immerse myself into that world that wasn't real because my reality was hard and I felt very alone. And I felt very alone for the majority of my life. And so I've always had trouble with relationships. I graduated college, and my husband and I were married right after. Like, I graduated in December of 98, and we were married in February of 99. And so we were babies. And we found out very early in our marriage that we carried a very rare gene that made very sick babies. And so we ended up losing three biological infants and had a miscarriage there in between. And so that was, I mean, terrible. It was just terrible. And my husband had actually lost his younger sister in a car accident when she was 16 years old. And then, so his mom had had such a hard time with that, obviously. And then now we losing all these grandbabies. And so I took everything on me, thinking that everything was my fault and that I made the baby and I made them wrong and I couldn't do anything right, which came from my childhood because that's how my dad, sort of talked to me back then. And so depression, anxiety, panic attacks, all those things in my early 20s, 30s. And then we were fortunate enough to adopt. There's a silver lining. So hang on there with me a second. I'm going to give you a lot of life in a short amount of time. But we were blessed to adopt. And so I am the proud mom of twin 22-year-old girls who were born on Christmas Day, nonetheless. So they were a miracle in themselves. And then our son was born about 4 years after that, our adopted son. And he brought a whole new journey because he was diagnosed on the autism spectrum at the age of 4. So he's going to be 18 this year. And so 18 years ago, there wasn't so much information about autism and neurodivergence and all that like we have today. And so I could not find anybody to help me. Everybody had a waiting list. Nobody would come to the home. Any clinic that I called was at least an hour away. The girls were still young too, and we're trying to work full time and then navigate his screaming fits for 45 minutes at a time and him getting kicked out of schools. And so, anyway, I thought it would be a fabulous idea to go back to school to get my master's degree in occupational therapy at the age of
Might as well.
39. Like, yeah, just throw that in the mix. My husband thought I was nuts. And he played Mr. Mom for quite a few years while I got my master's degree. But I do not regret that because it helped me to be a better mom to him. And then it helped me to work with other families and kids that were on the spectrum that couldn't find help. So I think that's exactly what I was supposed to do and exactly where I was supposed to be. And I love occupational therapy because of the holistic nature of it. I think we need to look at people as a whole and not just one body part or brain or whatever it is. And then I'll give you a real short synopsis, and then you want to ask me any questions you can. I ended up getting cancer actually right before I was supposed to start school for occupational therapy. So I had to put that on hold, have two very major surgeries. I had a tumor growing from the inside of my femur bone. So I was facing amputation at one point, and then they ended up just doing two major surgeries. And I'm happy to have a leg today. And that's why if you follow me on Instagram, you will see me working out all the time because I am blessed to be able to get to work out because I could be here with no leg. So I realize I have a different perspective than a lot of people, but I try to remember that every day. In the midst of all of that, somewhere in the middle of that, my husband was also unfaithful at one point in our marriage. And so that was really my journey of like introspection and really taking a good look at my responsibility in our marriage and how I had kind of checked out. And I realize now because I do have a certification in trauma and I've done a lot of learning for me that my body was just trying to keep me alive. I was so disassociated for so long. And I do regret being that way in the middle of my children's childhood because there's big chunks of my life that I don't remember and big chunks of their life that I don't remember. And so that's why I want to do the work that I'm doing today because I don't want other women to be that type of mama. You know what I mean? I want them to be a strong mama and a leading mama and a present mama. And so that's how I got to where I am today. And then last year I decided to officially write my family story, and so I wrote my self-help memoir. And now I'm speaking and just did a TEDx about 40 days ago. Still waiting for it to be released at this point. So.
Oh my goodness, I can't wait for that. I can't wait to watch it. Oh my goodness. Girlfriend, you have been through the fire. Um, you know, there was a word you said, restored. You were talking about self-care, and what does the was restored mean to you? Because that word is a very different than from just like I survived.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's always someone that we're meant to be, and
Mhm.
I am a Christian and I love me some Jesus. And so I think that God has a purpose for all of us and that we are meant to be this enlightened version of ourself, I guess. But you have to go through the fire in order to be restored and renewed. Because how am I supposed to, you know, understand someone else's story of struggle if I haven't had one of my own? Like, I can't relate to someone else and their problems if I haven't been through problems myself. So, not that I would go through, not that I wanted to go through any of those things again, but
Right.
I am grateful for every one of my trials because through them, I learned something new and something that helped me to be a better me.
Mm. I know there's, and I let me rephrase this too. I want to go back and ask this, and I don't want to like sensationalize it or anything, but because I know there are women that are, listening who are sitting in the exact same pain that you've went through, right? Especially with your marriage. Like, what made you choose to stay and do that work? That's hard, especially when you're going through all the trauma you've been through.
It was really hard. And, I always told my husband that I was never really angry. I was just disappointed,
Mm.
and he was going through his own trials. And, he never really processed the loss of his sister. And then to lose three children and then have a wife that was checked out and have a special needs kid. And you know what I mean? Like it was just, I mean, I would be surprised if one of us didn't stray at some point. I didn't have the energy to stray. Like,
I hear you there. I hear
yeah.
you.
And it wasn't like he searched it out. It was actually one of his first loves. And you know what I mean? Like
Right,
it wasn't like it was a stranger.
right.
And so he was just really looking for support and love, and I was not providing that for him. And so, like I said, I mean, not making any excuses for him. He's a big boy, but I was not holding up my end of the vows that we had made however many of those years ago, and that in that I guess in that it was we probably had 15 years into our marriage at least. I don't remember exactly what year it was, but um I just was not holding up my end of the bargain. And so I really needed to look inward and say, hey, how can I support him, and how can I communicate my needs better? Because I was not telling him what I needed or how I was feeling. I was just stuffing everything down and bottling it up. And it was coming out in physical symptoms and sicknesses and anxiety and all of those things. So that's another thing that you need to be able to talk about your feelings so that they
Mm,
don't get stuck and eat you from the inside out.
absolutely, absolutely. I think that's a big part. If you don't have that open communication and willingness to talk about the things, and you both seeking help as well about to resolve the trauma and working together and asking one another. That is so good. So if you're going through this, you're probably going to want to get her book as well. She's going to share all of the goods, the not so goods, and how she was able to go through that. Um, Now, I want to go back and talk about your son when he was diagnosed with autism. Um, I mean, obviously that changed your entire trajectory of your career into occupational therapy. How did a mother's love redirect your professional path?
Yeah, I didn't see any other way. And I back up a little bit. I am an overachiever. So
Of course you are.
I do thank my dad for that because, growing up in a household where nothing was ever good enough,
Hmm.
I was constantly trying to be better. And so I'm still always competing against myself, so to say. And when I was having such a hard time with my son, and I couldn't find anybody else to help me. I didn't see any other way except for me to do it on my own. I'm like, who better to do this than me? I'm his mom. And I would just kept thinking, God entrusted this child to me. He's my responsibility. And I need him and want him to have a happy life and to not think. I think this was my biggest thing. I didn't want him to think that he was a bad kid. Like because he was in trouble all the time, and it wasn't his fault. His nervous system could not handle the school that he was in and all of the things that were being thrown at him at once. And I just knew that there had to be a better way. Um, I don't know. Maybe I could have just taken a few classes online. I don't know. But also, I hated what I was doing. I hated the job that I was doing, and I knew that I was meant to do more and help people. And so I really at that time thought that that was my path. And so I'm one of those girls that just says, catch me, I'm jumping. And so that's how that started.
Oh my goodness. I resonate with so much what you said. The overachiever part for sure. Um, how did your faith get you through all of these seasons?
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I have been mad at God. Like we have had some screaming matches. He wasn't screaming, obviously, but I was. But I don't know how many times I've apologized to him and said, I am so sorry. You already had all of this figured out, and I didn't trust you. And so, because just like with our girls,
Hmm.
so our first daughter was born in March of 2002, and she lived for 3 days, which was a blessing and a curse because I did get extra time with her, but then it was even harder, to let her go after that. And so then I had a miscarriage shortly after. And then our second daughter was born the following year in May of '03. Um, so we had lost two girls. And at this point, you can imagine the devastation that was happening. Like, I was so defeated and angry and mad at God, obviously. And Christmas was coming, and my husband's cousin was actually pregnant. We were pregnant at the same time. And I pretty much told my husband, we need to cancel Christmas. Like, I can't do this. I can't go and watch her open presents with her baby, because it was going to be his first Christmas, and all the things that come with the first baby's Christmas. And
Mhm.
everybody who was around me was pregnant. All of my friends were having babies. Everybody was having a baby shower. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm totally alone. Nobody else has ever lost a baby. You know how you think that you're the only one that's going through these things. And I just wanted to cancel Christmas. I didn't want to go at all. And then I was probably praying or talking to God or whatever, yelling at him, whatever I was doing. And I just had like this peace come over me. And I was like, this is going to be okay. And what I really heard was like, this is not their fault.
Mhm.
His cousin being blessed with a healthy baby was not her fault. It wasn't directly, at me, that she could be happy and I was miserable. Like, that's not how life is supposed to be. And so we went to Christmas, and we did all the Christmas things, and I was fine. I wasn't crying the whole time or whatever. But that night at 10 o'clock, Christmas night, is when we got the call that the girls had been born. And
No.
yes,
Mm.
yeah. So that surrender, I mean, there's some real truth in that surrender. You know
Oh,
what I
I
mean?
should have
Like,
brought napkins or tissues. That's like, whoo, I got cold chills. Oh my goodness.
yeah,
Like literally,
yeah,
God shows up to, oh my goodness, and he makes your family whole.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the best Christmas presents ever. Like,
Mm.
it's just, and my girls are the sweetest. They're identical twins, which even more so, like, I only asked for one baby and he gave me two. Like,
Doubly blessed.
yes. And so you
Oh,
can imagine, I was like, I am so sorry that I ever doubted you. Like, it was crazy. It was really crazy. We couldn't believe it.
wow, that is okay. So when did your son come into your family?
So it took me 4 years of begging my husband to even try again, because he did not want to have anything to do with pregnancies or babies, or he's like, we have the girls, they were about four at the time. And he's like, we have the girls, we're good, and also he didn't want to see me go through another loss. I
Oh,
mean, that was the biggest part.
right.
And I am the ultimate optimist. And I said, God would never do this to us again. It happened twice. And I just knew like in my heart that we were meant to have our own child. That the only way I can explain it. I had like this unyielding urge or need, to be pregnant again. And
Mhm.
so finally talked him into trying. And that was the other funny thing. We could look at each other and get pregnant.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
no trouble. I've had so many friends that just could never get pregnant. And
Hmm.
so I realized like how much of a blessing it is that I could conceive and that I could carry a baby. And, because that was never the problem. I could always carry to term. It's just the baby was too sick. So we got pregnant again, and the baby, it's a syndrome that we carry. It's a very rare gene. And so the baby had the syndrome again. And about, I can't remember the exact timing, but I was talking to my mom, and I had kind of told her, I don't think we're going to actively pursue adoption like we did the first time. I said, but if a baby dropped in her lap, I would take it. It's just kind of talking. And so then my mom's at work, and this was maybe 2 or 3 weeks after I'd had our baby boy. It was pretty close because me and the biological mom's due date were really close together, like within a week apart. So, of course, I delivered my baby early, but so my mom's at work and she's a nurse and she's talking to somebody in the operating room, nonetheless, and they're telling her this story of, I think it was her brother's wife who worked with a girl that was 26 and actively looking for someone to take her child. She was pregnant and was looking for someone to take the baby. She could not keep it. And so what this person asked my mom was, would your daughter want to adopt again? And my mom said, well, if something dropped in her lap. And the lady actually said, well, here's one for your lap. Yeah, and so I ended up, and my husband said no at first. He was like, "No, I don't want to do that." And I do what I want, because I'm strong-willed. And so I told him, I said, "Well, I'm going to call her, and if it's a boy, she's going to have a boy." I said, "Then we'll have our answer." And so I called her and she was at work. She was a waitress at the time and she was at work. And we didn't get to talk very much, but pretty much all I got to ask her was, do you know what you're having? And she said, it's a boy. And so I just knew that he was supposed to be ours. And here we are almost 18 years later.
Oh my goodness. I love that. Your story, I mean, there is God all over your story. It is without a doubt. Without a doubt. I am the same way. Like if somebody's gonna, if I would take all the babies, like I would have 100 babies if I could financially afford them. Um, I just love children, and well, yeah, they're just such a blessing for sure.
Well,
Um,
that's what I told my husband. I said, if somebody's saying, will you take my baby? You don't tell them no.
like, yes, of course. Give me.
Here, let me have it. Yeah.
And I miss your children are much older now, right?
Yeah,
Um,
22. The girls are 22 and he's going to be 18 in September.
wow,
Yeah.
that it's so fun when they're getting to that age. But there's here lately, I'm like looking at my youngest. My youngest is 5 now, and I'm like, I miss like if I could go back to where I had 3 older children, and if I could go back to all of my children being like toddlers again, just for a day, it would be so amazing. Like, and I think, when you were talking about earlier and like just not being present and stuff, like when you're going through what you've went through and you forget so much. Like I would love to be able to go back to days that I can't remember and they're telling me about just so that I can be fully present again. Um, and you went through so much and you've talked about especially and I think when I was listening to one of your speeches and you were talking about severe anxiety and functioning depression from unprocessed trauma. What does functioning depression actually feel like from the inside?
It feels like autopilot. Like
Mm-hmm.
you were just going through the motions. Like, how the best analogy I can always think of is, how when you drive in your car and like you're going from one place that you drive from a lot to home and you
Mm-hmm.
get home and you don't remember driving there. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're like how like you're just on, you know what I mean? Like your body just has muscle memory and it just drives the car. And you're probably thinking about 1,000 different things and your mind's a million miles away. And that's what I feel like my life was. Like I was just on autopilot. I mean, I was doing all of the things. I was paying the bills and I was kind of paying the bills. We were pretty deep in debt too. That was another thing. Like I avoided looking at a lot of things. I thought if I just didn't look at them, then they wouldn't be there, which is not the truth, if anyone's wondering. And so, just yeah, taking the kids to school and showering and making dinner and it was just, yeah. I mean, I don't even remember. I do remember at one of my lowest points though, I was that mom that would go to car line and fall asleep in the car line. Like,
Mm-hmm.
because I was just so exhausted. Like I had no energy. I had fibromyalgia-like symptoms. I was in chronic pain all the time. I had totally destroyed my gut health, which is probably why I had such severe brain fog. And yeah, I don't know how I was working. Like, I have no idea how I worked and did things properly. And then I would put so much energy at work so that, so that I did a good job. And then when I got home, I was just completely depleted. So, I mean, no wonder that my husband and I weren't communicating. I didn't have the energy for any of that.
Yeah, that's hard. How long were you operating that way before you were able to figure out what it was?
You know, probably just, this is 2026, right? Um, Probably just about 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, truthfully, I don't even know how I made it through school. I was, when I went to school, so I had to become an occupational therapy assistant first. And that program was, it was only like half days, so I could work and still go to school, which was a terrible idea. And I was driving to Orlando, which is an hour from where we lived. So I would have to leave my house at 6:30 a.m., drive to Orlando, be in class until 1 o'clock or whatever it was, drive back an hour straight to work and work from like 2 to 5, and then have to go home to kids and dinner and papers and studying for tests. And like, I have no idea how I did any of that and made
You're a
straight A's.
super mom.
Made
Super
straight
mom,
A's
super
through the
mom.
whole thing. Like,
You are definitely an overachiever. I love it.
through and through.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so you're amazing. So you shared three talking points that you wanted to bring to our audience today, and the first one it really hit me hard because you said you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of anyone else. It's like whenever the flight attendant says you have to put on your mask before you help anyone else, same concept, but why is this still so hard for moms to actually do and not just believe it?
Yeah, I think that there has to be a breaking point. Like, I think all the moms that have figured that out, there's been a breaking point where your body has just said, we're not doing this anymore.
Yep.
Like, sorry, girl, you're laying down and you're not getting back up. Um,
Hmm.
and so I just really realized that I had to rest, and I had to take time for myself, and I had to spend time with God, and I had to find things that I loved that weren't for anybody else. You know what I mean? Like, my husband is a big fisherman and he golfs, and he loves racing and all of those things. And we some of those things we do together, but I needed something that was just for me. And I have journaled and written poetry and all through my life. Like, I didn't even realize that until I looking back on it. But then the gym sort of became an obsession because obviously I was trying to lose weight because I had gained a bunch of weight, and but the gym was also a community. And I had said earlier, I had a lot of trouble with relationships because I was never very good at communicating my needs. I was the ultimate people pleaser. And so I would just give and give and give to everybody else. And then when they wouldn't reciprocate, then I would get my feelings hurt. So I had to realize, what I was looking for in a friend and how to give other people grace, how to give myself grace. Um, but just that I had to take care of me. And if that meant saying no to things or to people, that was okay. And I had to really become okay with that because I can't be everything to everyone, especially if I'm not being a best friend to myself first. So.
Mm, that is so good because I am a self-recovering people pleaser as well. And what do you think, or do you realize now, what did people pleasing cost you that you didn't realize at the time?
You lose yourself because you're just worried about everybody else's happiness. And
Mm.
so I didn't even know what made me happy. I had no idea. I'm like, I don't even know what I like, because as a kid, I grew up liking whatever my parents liked or what they told me to like. um, and then, when I got married, I think my husband and I, and it's funny like to say it this way, but I really think we were sort of trauma bonded in the beginning because,
Yeah.
I came in just trying to get away from my dad. Like that was truly my main goal at that time was move away from home and get away from my dad. And
Hmm.
my husband had really still not gotten over the loss of his sister. And so I think he was trying to find someone to cling to. And I just knew that I could fix him. I was going to fix him
We're
because,
all fixers.
that's what we do.
Like
Um,
change the world, fix everybody.
fix everything and everybody. Yeah. And so, yeah, I don't know. I had to figure out what made me happy. And that took a long time, this sounds so strange, right? Because I've been
Mhm.
living with myself for almost 50 years. You would think I knew what I liked, but that was a whole process as well. In the past year, I started painting. I don't know how to paint. Like, I don't even know why I was saying I wanted to paint. It was just the weirdest thing. But when I started painting, it was like I was remembering how to
Mm.
paint. Not that I was learning, I was remembering how to paint. I knew which colors to mix together to get the look that I wanted. And like it was really a really strange experience. And I've really attached to nature now. Like I go outside a lot and I take walks and just like listen to the birds. And my husband thinks I'm a wackadoodle, you know. He's because I'll say things like there was a tree one time like in the middle of a field, like one
Mhm.
tree by itself, and I was like, oh, I wonder if that tree's sad that it's out there all by itself. And he's like, what is wrong with you? Like what? It's like what kind of question is that?
It
So
makes sense to me.
right, like it looked like it was alone, and I didn't want anybody or any trees to feel alone.
Oh,
So yeah.
that's amazing. Okay, so you're an occupational therapist, so you understand the nervous system regulation on like the clinical levels, if you will. So can you help us and the listeners understand what's actually happened psychologically when we're leading from depletion from this people pleasing persona, if you will?
Yeah, so I have become obsessed with the vagus nerve. I don't know
Mm,
if you know about the vagus nerve, but
yeah.
it is the longest nerve in the body, and it touches nearly every organ in the body. And working, especially with my son, and then working with I worked in pediatric occupational therapy. That was my favorite. I've done a lot of things in occupational therapy, but I worked in a hand clinic. I've worked in geriatrics. I was going into the assisted living and all that kind of stuff. But pediatrics is what was my true love. And the non-speaking neurodivergent kids were like my favorite. And because I realized how much and those kids understand energy better than the rest of us. Like, you got to think if you can't express yourself, you can't verbally tell somebody what you need or if you feel safe, you're relying solely on your body and what your body feels like. And so their vagus nerve, it works differently than ours does, but that also makes them really cool too. Like the things that they do is, you see like a lot of it's just the typical things that everybody like the flapping and the humming and the rocking. Those are all stimulating the vagus nerve. A lot of
Mhm.
these kids drink excessively, and also like the type of foods that they eat, crunchy, salty. A lot of them like sour, that kind of thing. all of that is impacting your senses, your sensory system. And so theirs is wired differently than ours is, obviously, because you'll even see those type of kids eat like super spicy stuff. Um, things that you wouldn't think that because some of their senses are dulled and some of them are heightened, they either need less or more of whatever that is. And then, all of them, they may be on the spectrum, but they're all totally unique. And I would love to like try to figure out, what certain kids, what made them tick and what made them happy and what made them sad. And to notice like the little things in their body. I always used to tell the teachers and the aides to listen with your eyes because these kids, they may be making noises, but they're not going to be able to tell you. You need to look at their body and, those little tenses that you see or those, I could always tell when my son was about to lose it because his whole body would tense. He would squeeze his fists together and I'm like, okay, well, we're done. Like, I as well just put him in his room and let him scream it out because you can't talk to him after that. Um, but yeah, breath is super important. I mean, there's so many different strategies for the nervous system, but yeah, I'm just a total nerd for all that kind of stuff.
And would you say, like, so if we're in this, like, us as moms, and we're in this dysregulated, was that the right word? Um, you know,
State. Yeah.
yeah, thank you. And, do our kids feel that? Does it impact?
Yes. Yes. And that's another thing that I regret because my 22-year-old, my twins, are
Mhm.
very high anxiety now. And looking back, I realized that I transferred a lot of my anxiety onto them unknowingly. Obviously, I wouldn't do that on purpose.
Right.
But that was a big thing when I was working in the clinics with these kids because the mamas were always very dysregulated. And so a lot of the times I was treating the mom more than I was treating the kids because if mom came in anxious and talking 90 miles an hour and she's da-da-da-da-da-da and just throwing things around and the kid there was no way that I was going to have a good session with that kiddo because mom was totally throwing everything off. But if we could get mom to calm down, you'd see an immediate difference in the child. And so I did a lot of education to the parents, um, because I'm like, especially if they gave birth to that child, I said, there is no deeper connection. They came from inside your body. Like they are
Yeah.
literally a piece of you. I said, so you are always connected and they're going to feed off of the energy that you're putting out.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I know I can feel energy when I go into a room and I can tell somebody is, or some of my family's in a mood. I'm like, ooh, what's going on here? And like, I'm just going to go back this way.
Yeah.
We're just not
Yeah.
going to talk today. Um, so if I can feel that, then definitely our children can feel that. They're just so more in tune to that, I feel. And so you're saying the mom needs to really regulate their own feelings and emotions, that going back to that self-care
Hmm.
as well. So it's
Yeah,
what's
for sure. Mom needs to figure out not only what calms the child, but what calms you. And, that's why I lift heavy weights because that calms my nervous system.
I need to
Um,
start doing that.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I like to pick heavy things up and put them down on repeat. But that really calms me. Taking walks calms me. I do a lot of breath work, because that's an immediate sort of calming. But and your kids are always watching you. You think maybe they're not because you think that they think you're dumb, but especially if it's a teenager, but they're watching you all the time. And so they're going to pick up on those things and realize that, you know, hey, mom's pretty chill. Like that's cool. Like I want to be like that.
Like, who's this lady now? Um, but that's very important because I don't think a lot of us realize when we're going through those states, phases and, or not phases, but trauma that causes us to get in this dysregulation, that how important it is to get to take care of ourselves, to regulate our nervous system because it is contagious to our children, how we are.
Yeah. Yeah,
And like
that
you
was
said, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, that was the biggest thing that I saw in the school system. I mean, my best, the when I would get the best out of those non-speaking kids, it was when I was regulated, when I was the calmest. And some of those classrooms, it was hard because when you've got a classroom full of neurodivergent kids or a mix of neurotypical and neurodivergent, when if one kid starts to pitch a fit, then all the kids, sort of get dysregulated. So it really was important for me to come in to the classroom calm so that I could, give a little bit of that to the teachers and the other kids, which is hard to do sometimes.
Mm. Um, yes, I believe that wholeheartedly. And like just like listening to everything you've said and everything I read that you've, it just made me realize like how serious this is for our children. So like I need to get my stuff together pretty quickly.
I'm
Because I still have little
pretty sure
flat.
you have most of your stuff together.
I don't know about that. Like I said, I'm a recovering people pleaser, and it is a day by day situation that I've had to learn to put boundaries, and it is okay to say no, and no is a full sentence. Like that is just
No is a full sentence. Yes. You do not owe anybody an explanation about
Mm-mm.
what you need in your life.
Yeah, I always thought I had to validate that reasoning, and you don't have to. It's a full sentence. Okay, the second thing you mentioned you wanted to talk about that moms need to hear was there is always a lesson in the trials we face, but we have to be open to learn from them. So, given everything you've walked through, and bless you, you've been through it and back, how do you actually access that openness when you're in the middle of the hardest season?
I think, what I've learned through all of this is it's just so much easier to be joyful
Mm,
than it is to be angry. I mean, you know what, like, and my husband and I just had this conversation the other day because, like I said, he still thinks I'm crazy. But I told him, I said, I'm always looking for miracles. So if I'm always looking for miracles, I'm bound to find one. Like once a week, at least, if
that's a
not
good
every
perspective.
day. Yeah, because, and he does buy into, whether you look for the good or the bad, you're going to find it. But that's what I told him. I said, it's just so much more fun to look for miracles than it is to be angry about all the stuff that I went through that I had no control over, no
Mm.
control. And that's been a really hard lesson in my life because I had so little control as a child that I wanted to try to control everything as an adult. And that is just a hard way to live. Like,
Oh, that is good. That kind of really resonated with me because I grew up military and we had to move all the time, and I was always okay with that. At least I thought I was, but when you just said that made me it's like, I do try to control everything in my life, and maybe because everything was out of control when I was younger. Like
yes.
you're helping me heal.
Yeah. I just, it's just so much easier. Like, and my husband is terrible about this because he gets, he'll get worked up. He's a pretty chill guy, but he can get worked up about certain things. And I'm like, honey, do you have any control over that? And he's like, no. I'm like, well, then let it go.
Mm,
like
mm.
if you can change something, then change it by all means. Do all the things and go back to school and get your master's degree and do all the things. I'm all for that. But if there is something that I have absolutely no control over, I got to let it go because what good am I doing myself just worrying about it?
Amen. Amen. Gotta let it go. Whenever you've talked about like how unhealed wounds become patterns, can you say more about what that actually looks like for women who are building businesses or leading teams or going back for their master's degree?
Well, I don't think that you're going to be able to lead anybody else until you feel like you're a leader. And because people can see through that. And that's where I lived for a lot of years. Like I was saying that I wanted to do all of these things, but I didn't believe. that first of all that I deserved it. I didn't believe that I deserved anything. But I definitely didn't deserve that, think that I was a leader or a teacher or an educator. And so I had to really, it really goes back to that self-care and being, just being proud of myself. You know what I mean? Like really looking back. And I think that's the biggest thing that the book taught me, because after you write all those things down and you read the manuscript 14,000 times because you're going through edit phases,
Yeah.
about time 12,000 that I read my story, I was like, holy moly, I'm really strong. Like I went through all of that and I'm still here. I'm still standing. You know what I mean? So I think you just really got to take ownership of your gifts and know that you're meant to share those gifts with the world. But until you realize that, people are gonna, they're gonna see that you're, faking it, or that you don't believe in yourself. And so I don't think you can expect someone else to believe in you if you don't first believe in your heart that you're doing what you're meant to do.
Oh my goodness. That is so good. And this also leads into the third lesson you kind of wanted to share with our audience today, and that was speak your truth out loud the way you want it to be told because people love to fill in the gaps for you. Oh my goodness. Can you give us an example what happens when we don't speak our truth?
Yeah, because people assume and people
Mm.
judge. People are very judgy about things.
Mhm.
And so, it was kind of like about me telling the whole world that my husband cheated on me. Um, Once you shine light on something, what is somebody else going to say that you haven't already said? I mean, I told the entire world that my husband cheated. Okay, so what? Like we moved through that and we are better for it and we are stronger now. You know what I mean? So I just think that um, if you don't speak your truth, someone else will speak it for you. It's kind of like the same thing with communicating with your kids. If you
Mm.
don't tell your kids how the world really is, someone else is going to tell them. And so I just think that we need to take our power back and tell our story, our truth, the way that we want it to be told. And that's I love helping other women do that. And that's part of what I do now. I opened my own publishing company so that I can help other women write their stories and publish their books, and so that they can help other women.
Oh my goodness. Okay, you're gonna help me. I need to get a book out.
Yeah, if you haven't already written a book, you need to write a book, girl. I know you've told me part of your story.
Yes, yes. So you can help me do that. And so going to that, you're your storytelling coach, among the many other hats you wear, incredible. Um, can so for the woman who's listening, she spent her whole life shrinking, who has a story she's been holding on to, but doesn't know where to, or how to start. Where does she begin?
You need to find a community. And that's really what I found. I joined a mastermind,
Mm-hmm.
and I absolutely adore and love my coach, Amberly Lago. She's a mentor to me. I mean, she's one of my favorite humans on the planet, but she completely changed my life and her community. You know what I mean? Being in rooms with other women who had walked through fire and we're building businesses and we all come together and help each other. And so I think, I mean, that's the first thing, like just reach out to a friend and say, hey, I have a dream. Will you listen to it? And then find those people that will support you through it.
Mm,
'Cause that's been my biggest growth in like the past year and a half. Just finding those other women that think like me.
I love that. And how do you know when your story is ready to share versus when it still needs to maybe stay private?
Yeah, I mean I think that's different for everybody. And Amberly coaches, not to speak from, to speak from a scar, not an open wound.
Mm,
But I think that writing the book is actually very healing. I mean, that helped me tremendously, just getting it down on paper And like I said, and then reading it back and realizing how much I had been through and how much I had overcome, that was very healing to me. So
Mm. And is this where Soul Story Collective is built around?
that's where it was birthed from. Yes.
Can
Yeah.
you tell us a little bit about more about that community and like what you do there?
Yeah, so you know how whenever you start something, it always, I mean, it'll be what you thought it was going to be, but then it also turns into to something even different. Um, the women that I have found that I'm helping write their stories have been some of the women that I thought, but they didn't always come in the way that I thought they would. You know what I mean? And so a lot of them are very spiritual or God-led. But I'm also doing an anthology with a community of, it's a nonprofit, and everybody in the group is a spinal cord injury. And so I'm helping them tell their story so that they can have a book to give to people who are newly injured. And so I'm so blessed to be a part of that because obviously none of them are really authors. So I'm getting to take them, through their whole journey, which is healing for them too. And a lot of them have been injured for a long time and some not so much. There's a lot of different stories in there, but yeah, I mean, I'm a full service publishing company and um, I've got a graphic designer because I love to work on, I'm very creative. And so I love to work on like the book covers and all those kind of things. And I'm just really enjoying meeting with my clients every week and, going over chapter ideas and, the layout of the book and what we want to put in and what we want to keep out. And there people find, a lot of stuff will be talking things that they need to heal through and that it's a healing point for me too. So it's a blessing both ways.
That's amazing. And you work primarily with women over 40, right? Yeah. What
Yeah,
is
I mean, I think that's what's been coming to me. But like I said, with the spinal cord community, I mean, they're all ages and males, females. So that's been really fun.
and is that when is that was what your TEDx talk was about, the importance of nonverbal communication?
Yeah,
And
my TEDx is nonverbal communication and emotional intelligence. It's about a lot about energy.
mm, wow. What was the moment you knew you had enough to say on some that you knew you had something powerful, I should say, on and enough to say on a stage like that, just so like, moms listening, they could be like, okay, maybe I do. I can do this.
I think it was just, how you just start saying things out loud and you don't even know why you're saying them. And I think those are those little God nudges, or God winks. Um, and sometimes you say something and you're like, oh, who said that? Like, like where did that come from? But I mean, being in the entrepreneur world,
Mhm.
obviously, I have a lot of friends that have done a TEDx, and I just think that it was another thing to challenge me. Apparently, I like to be challenged. I never would have thought that before. I would have thought that I would run from every challenge. But it also, I
Yeah.
mean, a TEDx is hard. It's a totally different animal than just like, getting up in front of a room of people and doing a talk about your story. It's really hard. And
Yeah.
so I'm very proud of myself that I went through that whole journey and came out on the other side of it.
Yes, definitely you should be. I did something that's kind of similar. It's called Kingdom Kim Tem. It's for Kingdom Impact Storytellers. So
Oh, cool.
similar concept, but obviously it's not TEDx, but that process was really hard for me to go up there and share your story. So I can't imagine on that level of yeah, that's a that's a 1 day goal for me that to do
Well,
TEDx.
if I can do it, anybody can do it because I was the girl who would not get up in front of anybody and say anything,
Oh my
probably
goodness.
even 10 years ago, and just did a TEDx. So, yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, there's one more thing I want to mention before we get off here. Your book, Eat Your Feelings, hit #1 in Amazon in 5 categories.
But right? Wild.
Like, wow. Okay, let's get what is that book really about at its core, and who did you write it for?
I mean, I really think I wrote it for me. I wrote it to heal. But it is a self-help memoir. So it is this story of my family's life. I start with my dad because all of the experiences with my dad shaped who I became. And so then all of my family members kind of get their own little chapter. And but I have a lot of tools in there. I've come up with a lot of little frameworks and strategies along the way that I didn't even realize I was doing until I went to write this book. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I really have been using strategy. I just thought I was floundering through life. And it turns out that, I really did have frameworks and, um, I don't know what the other word I'm looking for is, but ways to help you navigate what you're going through. And so there's some places in there, to write feelings and notes. And one of my friends from church, she's so cute. She does not like to feel her feelings. And so she told me she was reading the book and she's like, well, I just threw your book at the wall. And I was like, okay. She said,
Thanks.
yeah, you got me all of my feels and I didn't want to feel them. And so I just chucked it at the wall. I said, well, then you were having an emotion and that was the goal. So I was proud of her for that. And she did finish reading it. But yeah,
Oh my gosh,
I
that's
just want people
amazing.
to know that you can go through a lot of tragedy and come out on the other side joyful and to be able to help other people with what you've learned. So
Absolutely. Um, Now, if your younger self, the little girl who was told her voice didn't matter, could see you now, the one giving these TEDx talks, writing the best-selling books, what do you think she would feel?
I've actually had conversations with her. That's been some of my work that I've done. And yeah, it's been very interesting because she was just so scared and just afraid to do anything that I felt so stuck for so many years because that little girl inside of me was frozen, literally frozen in fear. And so now, and she's very proud of me. And we have conversations all the time.
I
So,
love it. Oh my gosh, that's good. Um, what's the best decision you think you've ever made as a mom?
oh my gosh. Um, I mean, adoption, I think adoption is the best thing ever. And, I always wanted my own children because, I still have those times where, I see friends and like even me and my mom, like we look almost exactly alike. And like when I look into my kid's eyes, I see someone else's face. You know what I mean? I don't see my features or my things in them, but they're mine. They were meant to be mine. And so I think that's been the best decision is just the the gift of adoption.
I believe that wholeheartedly. I have a good friend of mine. She's adopted a few children, and it's crazy because what made me think of this is when nature versus nurture. Her kids look just like her. So, and it's you wouldn't know, and but not blood related at all. And it is incredible. And I just think adoption is just a beautiful, beautiful option. And
Yeah. Yeah, our son favors us. My girls are very like olive skinned, dark eyes, dark hair. So like you can tell they didn't come out of me. But our son is fair skinned, blue eyes. So nobody ever questioned that my husband, because my husband and I both have blue eyes. And so,
oh
yeah.
wow. Okay. What does leading like a mama mean to you?
Leading like a mama. I don't being fierce
Mm.
and doing whatever the heck it is that you want to do with your life and showing your kids that they can do that too. I think that's really important.
Oh, I love that. Oh my goodness, Christina, this conversation has been everything I hoped it would have been and more. I'm gonna go back and listen to this like 100 times. Like it's so good. There's so many good juicy nuggets and just you're living proof that pain it doesn't have to be your prison. It can absolutely become your platform and how you used your faith to get you through it. Um, even during the times you were so angry, but through it all, your faith got you through it. And um, before I let you go, is there one message that you believe more than anything that moms need to hear right now?
Just self-care is not selfish, that you really do need to take time for yourself because you will be a better mama and you will be able to lead um, more efficiently if you take care of yourself first.
Hmm. Yes. That is so good. And before I let you go, can you tell everyone where they can find you, what they can get from, working with you and just how to be in your world?
Yeah, thank you so much for having this has been so fun. Um, So I'm all over Instagram, Cristina P. Simmons on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. It's Christina Borges Simmons, but if you put in Christina Simmons, I'll come up on there. I'm on LinkedIn as Christina Simmons. My website is christinapsimmons.com. And yeah, if you have a story to tell and but it feels a little heavy and you're not sure how to tell it, I bring my clinical side and my own trauma background to hold space for that and to heal through that storytelling process. So I would love to work with anybody who wants to do that.
Oh my goodness, Christina, thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart, just for not giving us the cleaned up version of your story today. It's been powerful. And here is what I want you to take with you, friend. You were not made to lead from depletion. You were not made to let someone else write your story. And you were absolutely not made to walk into your calling with your head down. You belong there. You walk in like you own, like you know it and you own it. So don't carry doubt into rooms you prayed to walk into, as Christina has said. So, and if this episode moved you, and I know it did, hit subscribe right now so you never miss an episode like this one, and share it with a mom who needs to hear it today. And find me on Instagram and find Christina because we also want to know and hear what you thought of this episode as well. And be sure to connect with Christina and get her book. And I will see you on the next episode. So keep leading, keep growing, and keep believing in what's possible.